All right, welcome to Live from my drum room. I have a very special show and a very special guest today, celebrating the 50th anniversary of the iconic album Frampton Comes Alive, released January 15th, 1976. To say this record had an impact on me personally would be a huge understatement. In fact, I'd say every musician from my generation has been influenced by this record. And just by pure happenstance, I saw Peter Frampton in probably most of the same show when Peter Frampton opened for Rod Stewart and the Faces at the Boston Garden in October of 1975. 50 years later, this record still holds up and it sounds as great as ever. And today, I'm honored to be joined by the legendary Frampton Comes Alive bassist, Stanley Sheldon. Stanley was my guest for an episode of Track Talk on April  24th, 2023, where we did a deep dive into Do You Feel Like We Do? So check that out, and I'll be sure to put the link in the show notes. But now, please welcome the great Stanley Sheldon. There he is. Welcome.
Hey, John.
Great to see you, Stanley. Thanks for being here today.
Oh man, thank you for inviting me again.
It's a pleasure. You are to date, you are the only bass player to ever appear on my show, and I'm honored by that.
We got to get more bass players on it.
I will. I will get. I'm going to definitely reach out to
I'll
some
give
other
you a
bass.
short list.
I know
My
you know
short
all
list.
the. If I have any problem, I'll ask you to put in a word for me. So thank you. But man, we have lots of folks watching. I know you're no stranger to having a big crowd, so I know you don't have stage fright. But we have a great audience watching us live, and we have so much to talk about. Um, and man, congratulations, first of all, on 50 years of this iconic record.
Hard to believe it's been that long, but it really has. It's amazing.
I mean, you were there on stage making it, but I remember like yesterday, like we were talking about off the air, just how fast time goes by. But I remember hearing "Show Me the Way" on the radio, and my sister, who I talk about all the time, she's 5 years older than me. She bought me the record because she knew I loved the single. And I don't even know if I knew at the time that it was a double album, but when I got it, I just remembered, like we did back then, we playing it from start to finish. You didn't have the luxury of, fast forwarding to different songs. You just listened to the whole thing. And I think there was a period of time, and I'm going to let you talk too, Stanley, but I have all this stuff I want to say. There was a period of
No, I
time.
love hearing this.
Well, I think I listened to side one like probably more than anything for a long period. I would just like play it over and over just because of like those songs that were selected for side one were just so impactful and so rocking and so great. Um,
Yeah, man. Well, I'll never forget when we walked into the Wally Hyder remote truck that the night of that gig at Winterland, and we heard that analog recording, and it just the first few bars of something's happening. I
yeah.
mean, what a way to kick off. That was perfect song to kick off the set. Peter built great sets, but when we heard it, it didn't take us long. We all looked at each other and goes, "Well, I don't know, but this is something.
Yeah.
We've got
Yeah.
something here."
Well, you answered one of my first questions is did you have any idea at the time how great, how masterful this was? Or was it just, you guys were playing so much back then that I wondered if like some of these shows that we're lucky enough to hear, captured on tape, if they were just it was just another gig, so to speak, and it didn't really sink in how great it was.
In this case, we knew that it was the timing. I was thinking about this just leading up to what we might talk about last night when I woke up in the middle of the night. I mean, that analog recording and the fact that I'll try to do a nutshell version of this. I got the call to audition with Peter in April of 1975, and I was living in LA and just happened to be at the perfect place to go meet him at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel where he was staying. He needed frantic to find a bass player. He had auditioned quite a few people, and he was ready. He needed someone ASAP.
Yeah.
And I was just happened to be in the perfect spot. I had just moved to LA with Tommy Bolin, and we'd only been there a month or 2 months, I think, 3 months. It was exactly 3 months. And Kenny Passarelli, Peter had asked him to play bass. He couldn't do it. He was doing other stuff. So he recommended this unknown guy, Stanley Sheldon. I was kind of known in Kansas and in Boulder, where Tommy Bolin and I had been playing fusion.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy went on to, play on that famous Billy Cobham album, but I was just in the right place at the right time. And when I met Peter, he gave me the 3 studio albums up in the hotel that night, and said, "Okay, you've got 2 weeks to learn this stuff. That's great," because he was going in for some kind of dental procedure. And he goes, I'll give you a ticket to New York, and we can't really say this is a done deal until you play with John."
Yeah.
So that John Siomos. And I said, "Okay, great." It seemed like a great luxury to me to have that much time to learn the songs. And I worked really hard to learn them well, because, I didn't realize the gravity of it all at that time. I just said, "Hey, I got a gig, maybe."
It's a gig. Yeah.
And he goes, "So I'll fly to New York in 2 weeks, and you play with John and Bobby." And then I guess the point is, the timing of this, the way it came together like that. I played one song with him. I think it was "Do You Feel?" And we stopped, and maybe it was like one song. We might have played 2 or 3 songs, and then we just kind of meandered to the back of SIR Studios to chat a little bit. And Peter just said, "Welcome to the band."
Wow.
And that was a great moment. That was, one of those moments you'll never forget. Okay, I got the gig, and I was elated.
Yeah.
And then we hit the road. I had flown out from LA, and my future wife was still back in LA, and I didn't even get to go home. We just hit the road right from there.
No kidding.
Peter took me up to his country home, and we spent a couple days there, and getting to know each other. And I stayed with him, and then it couldn't have been more than a week. We hit the road.
So like a week of rehearsals, and that was it? And you guys were out?
That was it. And then we flew to Boise and did our first gig opening for Black Oak, Arkansas. In Boise, Idaho. I'll never forget Siomos. He was talking about the Idaho Spuds. Here we are. And I was kind of nervous. It was my first gig playing to that many people, I think.
Yeah.
So I took a Valium, I think. Everything was fine. Back then, that was pretty normal thing to do. But
yeah.
Anyway, back to the timing of this whole thing. So we had like just weeks, or let's say 2 months before we were at Winterland. So it just happened so quickly, and the energy of our new band, and I'm thinking about this, and the excitement of having a brand new band, and all the, you're excited about the new material that you've just learned, and everyone's clicking because the chemistry's right. And Peter, we all felt the chemistry, but Peter, he knew it immediately, as well as the rest of us. Hey, this is good.
Yeah.
So we did those first few gigs, we went to New Orleans, a few other places. I'll just remember it. It's kind of a haze, but it wasn't more than 2 months we arrived to Winterland and made that record. And it was just the freshness and the excitement of knowing that we're going to take this somewhere. We didn't know. We were opening for Jay Giles a lot, and because we had the same manager, D'Anthony. So we were doing these gigs, and we knew it was going to be something. A year later, Jay Giles was opening for us. So things happened fast in this business. But
isn't that wild?
That timing, the timing of playing those songs live, and there's something so special about capturing a live performance. And even back then in the studio, the all my favorite musician friends, we love to just play right in the studio live and capture it that way, analog,
Yeah. Yeah.
all face to face, and
Yep.
no overdubbing. Of course, there was some, but to get those basic tracks. So every time I did a performance, whether it be in the studio or playing on a stage, I always said, "Okay, we only got one chance at this, man, but let's make it real." And that night, it was just everything came together. The weeks of rehearsal, the limited amount of gigs, so before it gets, I don't want to use the word stale,
Hmm.
but you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
play songs, and eventually the freshness is that's why musicians get hired, because you deliver a performance that's not stale every night. But we
Yeah.
caught the perfect moment in time, and Peter brought that truck and recorded that. I didn't know we were making a record. That's all a funny story I like to tell.
Well, that
Um,
so that's yeah. Another question I was going to ask is, had you been recording a lot of shows and picked? No, so it was you selected Winterland, and there were a couple other spots too. I think right, SUNY, um,
right, but if we,
but
Winterland was
mainly,
the very first one, and we knew we had 90% of it from there. Or we knew later on, we found out. But
yeah,
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 in Purchase and SUNY, and we got a couple from Long Island, a
right,
gig in Long Island. So most of it, and San Rafael. The following
yeah.
two nights later, we played in San Rafael. I remember Cameron Crowe was there interviewing us all, and he was just a
Wow,
kid.
yeah, he had to be. Wow,
So
but
that's that the
so
movie, right?
and so were the songs. This is so great to get all this really deep inside information. So you'd only been out really a couple of months when you recorded most of that live record. Had you been were the songs sort of evolving to like the arrangements? Were you guys trying different things from night
Peter
to
gave
night?
us Peter did give us latitude to, but we all stayed pretty faithful to we had a good roadmap because of Peter's three solo albums in the studio. So
Yeah.
I was just kind of emulating what Rick Wills had played on all three of the records. It was Rick Wills, and
Hmm.
he played some, he did a great job on all those records. So
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
kind of took his style, and we stayed faithful to the arrangements. But Peter, we could choose our own notes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we knew we had the feel. So I think the spontaneity of jamming and getting improvising every night in our own individual ways, which we did, but we stayed close to the map, but we
Yeah.
did have room to breathe.
I don't know if you remember this, but when I had you on to talk about "Do You Feel Like We Do," we played the original studio version with Rick, and I never realized it until I started listening to that how much I hate to use the word busy, but his studio version was quite a bit busier than yours. Your live version, which was more groovy feel, and it really sat down more, just really kind of locked in beautifully with John. And it was interesting to see that was your take on that was to, and maybe just playing it live, you felt like you wanted to make it less busy. Sometimes
Well,
that
I
stuff
don't know.
gets,
I was just doing what I do, and that brings up a good point. When the three of us actually decided we were going to be a band that day at SIR, Peter said he was really happy, and he said verbatim, I think, "I've always wanted a really funky band,
yeah,
And
yeah,
back in, and we were all from the U.S. Me and Bobby and John were all
yeah.
Americans, and Peter, that's what Peter wanted. He
Hmm.
wanted more of uh, an earthy kind of stemming from the New Orleans blues kind of players that most of John was that, I was that, Bobby was that.
Yeah, yeah,
We grew up with the blues. And in Britain, it's a little different back then, I think. The guys in Humble Pie, Peter's previous band, and some of the other players in bands like Spooky Tooth, and especially Steve Winwood, they were very funky players. and they had absorbed the best of the best of American roots music. I would say Winwood more than anyone,
Yeah.
but Peter wanted that. And with us, he felt he had found it. It was like Memphis Soul Stew, you know,
Yeah.
that kind of
Yep.
feel. And on Doobie that's really.
Oh man, yeah. Well, we're going to get to that in a minute. Yeah, we have to. And you talking about Bobby, the great Bob Mayo, and he was
Bob
fairly
Mayo,
new.
Bob Mayo.
Bob Mayo on the keyboards. Bob, I think I told you this, and I'll just repeat it, just because I met him in the late '80s when he was playing with Hall and Oates. Great drummer Michael Braun, who was Hall and Oates drummer, was a friend of mine when I through my working at Zildjian, and I went to see him in Boston, and I didn't realize he was in the band, and Mike introduced me to him, and I went, "Is it the?" And all the guys in the band went, "Bob Mayo on the keyboards, Bob Mayo," and he just, he kind of like went, "Oh God," and he was the nicest guy. And then years later, in the mid '90s, he was back with Peter, and the great Jack Bruno was playing drums, and they
Again.
came through town, and Jack and I are old buddies. He invited me to the show, and we sat and had dinner before the show. And I think it might have been only a couple of years before Bob passed away, sadly. But we talked about John Siomos. I remember I had all these questions for him about John, and he was saying, yeah, he was just a badass drummer, every bit as great as he sounds,
I made a few notes about John because I know we wanted to focus on him a little. This is in my drum room, after all. And, John, he was the first one at SIR that day when I got there. Bobby and Peter weren't there yet. Leslie West had been wandering in and out of the room. So I met Leslie West. I was just a kid, first time in New York. And I see this cat playing drums in the room. And I knew, okay, that's John. He's the guy I have to get by or get with. I just listened to him playing alone for about 5 minutes, and he was just it was the most killer groove I'd ever heard a guy just nonchalantly do
Mm-hmm.
for himself. He's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
he was just warming up. But where was I going with that? I mean, John, he was just such a special cat. So it was kind of auspicious that he was the only guy there when I got there. And okay, this is John.
Yeah.
And we
Did you
clicked, and
guys?
I made,
Yeah.
while we were there rehearsing, and it might have been a few months after that when we were back in New York, but John was from Chicago, the South Side, and he loved hockey. He used to rent an ice rink in New York City up on the top floor of I forget where it was, over on the west side somewhere, I think. It was called the Sky Rink, and you could rent a hockey rink. And John would go up there and rent the thing, and it was just, I went with him, and he'd put on the full gear and the pads and everything. And I would skate around in my sweater, and I'd just hang
Uh,
out with him. But we had a really special bond in it, he and I, and Bobby too, and Peter, but especially John at that point in time. We just got super close, and it wasn't going to be long before his problems with addiction were going to limit his ability to stay on the road with Peter. And I guess that's the point I wanted to get to. It was so special before, this little bubble of time that we had together playing. It was just it was awesome
yeah.
because we sounded like we had been playing together for years already when we met. But, we'd all been doing our thing all those years leading up as boys, learning how to play. But I'm so glad that, he was at the height of his power that day at
Yeah.
Winterland.
He sure was, man. I mean, let's play. Should we play a little bit of Something's Happening?
Sure.
Speaking of which, yeah, let's just play a little bit of this. This is, the as you pointed out, the ultimate song to open a show with. Here we go. First song, side one, Frampton Comes Alive.
A musician who was an honorary member of San Francisco Society, Mr. Peter Frampton.
You guys sound so great, man. I think the most difficult part of this is going to be, not being able to play all these songs all the way through because we'll be here till tomorrow. But, but man, I mean, so many things I have to ask you right now. First, I want to ask a question from one of my bandmates, my buddy Paul Candelori, and I want to shout out to Paul Candelori and my other bandmate Paul Gianelli, who are huge Frampton fans and huge Stanley Sheldon fans. And Paul Candelori asked, were you playing fretless bass on the entire record?
Yes.
You were? Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of people were really surprised, even bass players that I've talked to, that I just kept it kind of intonation there was not a lot of sliding that a lot of fretless bass players might do. Well, back then, hardly anyone was playing a fretless bass in a rock format. I'd say me, and first guy I saw was Danko,
Hmm.
uh, and then Dee Murray from Elton's band, the original trio. He played fretless on all. So we were, and Kenny Passarelli. I can't leave Kenny out.
Hmm.
He was playing with Joe Walsh. So that's the handful of bass players playing fretless bass in rock bands back then, to
Yeah,
my knowledge. So yeah, every every I played it 100% of the time back then.
man. What that song, I'll just say from a drummer's vantage point, I'd been playing drums just a couple of years when I got this record, and it opened my eyes. My influences were John Bonham and Ringo and Charlie Watts and Keith Moon and all those great drummers from that time, and guys like Buddy Rich. But John's playing was like this other, I guess the closest thing might have been Bonzo in terms of like the sort of heaviness to it, but he was even funkier, as you pointed out earlier. He just had this, and the way he played the bell of the ride cymbal during those whether it was the chorus of a song or an instrumental, you know what I'm talking about. And the way you guys accented together, like when he was doing all those little bass drum accents, playing like four on the floor and those, and you're like following it with those little bass runs. As a kid, I knew that was really special. Like I hadn't heard that before. Um,
And we
and
were just doing it effortlessly because we'd all been doing it for years. John, originally was when he was still in Chicago, I think he was playing with Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels.
yeah,
And then in New York, the thing that really put him on the map, he was playing with a handful of people, but he did on Something Anything with Todd Rundgren because
yes,
Todd heard it too. Todd heard the special thing that John had. And if you listen to Hello, It's Me, the cymbal work, the feel, it's
ah,
almost ethereal.
yeah,
And John will always be famous for that track. Uh, so he played with a few people, most notably Todd Rundgren,
yeah,
who had a
yeah,
lot to do with recording techniques for many bands. He was kind of the guru of
hmm,
that. And Tommy Bolin, my buddy, loved him too. So that's where I first heard John, and I didn't even know I was hearing him when I was back in Colorado back in 1970, hearing Todd's album. Do you remember Buzzy Linhart?
I no,
All right, he was another guy that
I
kind of
didn't know it.
bubbled under, never had a big hit. John was playing with him. Uh, and Peter heard that one track. I've heard the story later. I wasn't around yet. John played on not the first solo album of Peter's, but the following two. Once Peter he heard John's feel on Hello, It's Me, and knew that was the drummer he wanted. So he snatched him up at that point. You know, we both know Rick Marotta.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
Ricky has told me over the years that, you know, when John left to go on the road with Peter, all of a sudden, I don't know if it could happen like that because Rick was already doing, he had a name and doing a lot of sessions in New York, but John kind of left a vacuum when he left to go on the road because he was the cat or
yeah.
one of them.
That played that way. Yeah, yeah.
So when we left on the road, I think Rick got a lot more work. Maybe, I don't know. Rick could tell you, but Ricky
Well,
loved John's playing as well. We
he
talked.
he did. Yeah. I was going to say he called me the other day and we were talking about it, and he mentioned and he said you need to talk about this with Stanley, and he's just how great he was, of course, but he was talking about how he watched him. I guess they were maybe on a, I don't think it was with Frampton, but he was on a gig where he saw where John was playing and he was playing, and he watched him playing a shuffle, and Rick was saying he played it with all he played it a certain way where he played the accent on the two and the three on the snare drum. It was like gun, 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 like it was this. And he said from that point on, I only played a shuffle that way. Rick could explain it better, but he, as you
Right.
say, big fan of his playing.
Well, I think John, a lot of drummers took notice of him, mainly I think because of that Todd Rundgren album.
Yeah, yeah,
that was a game changer. I'm just thinking, just stream of consciousness kind of
Yeah.
stuff's coming to my mind. But we were all, when I joined Peter's band, we started out, we were listening to Little Feat a lot. And I think a lot of my musician friends, most of the ones that I admired, were listening to Little Feat,
Hmm.
a lot. Because what Richie Hayward was doing was it was kind of unorthodox, but it was just,
Absolutely.
his
Yeah.
feel was impeccable. And John was kind of like that. He did things that just a little different somehow, but
Absolutely.
uh,
Yeah. And I'll point out just as a drummer again, I mean, what really stood out and what you hear on this record, and I give so much credit. I didn't realize that it was Chris Kimsey was the engineer,
yeah,
which makes
great
perfect
Christian.
sense. Yeah. Great
Yeah, worked
Chris
with the
Kimsey.
Stones and a bunch of
Yeah.
people.
Always gets a great sound. And John, John, you can hear it really clearly, even on a 50-year-old recording, where he's playing eighth notes with his left foot as a right-handed drummer. So he's playing the ride cymbal, and those little things where he's playing those little quick eighth notes with his left foot, and it just kind of really gives the whole thing this lift.
Peter would always talk about this particular track, the way John played Lines on My Face with the hi-hat in the back one,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
offbeat. And it was just an amazing feel. And oftentimes, I think with drummers, it's what they're doing with their hi-hat is really gives them their signature.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. And the breakdown and Do You Feel Like We Do, where you guys are just
That's another one.
yeah, and he's playing those little 16th notes, but we play that song, my band, and we do a pretty good job, but it's just the way you guys are locked in, and it's just this both of you guys. I mean, your feel, his feel.
Peter
It's
gave us that was the one song that I would say we would stretch out as and hardly anybody stretched. We just kind of, but we had
yeah,
the freedom. If you're patient enough to hear that whole little improv section, talk box, and John and I just almost
hmm
becoming catatonic with. I actually saw John nod out once during that while we were doing it.
no,
It took a little bit of patience to play that section, but
it's
it was fun to improvise, just you know, build tension up for like 32 bars and then just do something. It was
yeah,
really
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's just it's masterful. I mean, I can't explain it any better. But I started to ask you. So Bob was still pretty new when you joined the band. Bob was pretty new as well, right? He had just
He was the most recent member other than me.
yeah. Okay, so you in a sense this was really kind of a new band with both of you guys in the band. First time touring with Peter, and the vocal harmonies that we hear are you and Bob singing
It's
harmonies.
mostly Bob. I
It's
sang sparsely on a couple of songs, and those guys were a little disappointed when I told them, guys, I'm not a great singer when I'm playing. I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
sacrifice the groove. So they knew it from day one. But I was singing a falsetto part on "Show Me the Way." I want you,
Okay, all right,
and
yeah.
a couple of things. But Bobby was strong enough. He had perfect pitch. He was one of those guys born with it. Uh,
I hate those guys.
I know. And Bobby, I would challenge him sometimes. I'd clink my glass. I'd go, Bobby, what's that note? Yeah, E flat. I mean, it's just the craziest stuff ever. But I mean, he and Peter singing together, they sounded incredible. They
Yeah, they sure
there's
did.
a
Yeah.
perfect pitch.
And Peter's, I mean, and the vocals that we hear are really Peter's, right? I mean, they're not overdubbed like a lot of bands were doing during that
I'm really
time.
proud to
It's
say, that
pretty
gets a
out.
lot of people talk about, Kiss, overdubbing. They went in their Kiss Live album, and I don't want to dog Kiss
Yeah,
because,
yeah,
but they helped it along quite a bit. I
yeah,
think in the studio, we didn't have to. I think my vocal that falsetto part had to be fixed, couple of solos. Other than that,
Yeah.
what we played that night was it.
That's it. Well, I told you this, Stanley, when I first met you. I didn't know it at the time. I mean, I think I realized sometime after I got the record in '76 that I had seen you guys open for Rod Stewart and the Faces
Oh,
at
yeah.
the Garden in Boston in '75 in October. And I just remember going there thinking, oh, the guy from Humble Pie is opening for the Faces. You know, that should be good. And I honestly, I'm not making this up. I just remember like probably at that time in my life as a kid, as a teenager, being so blown away by the opening band, which typically you go see the Rolling Stones and you're not paying attention to the opening band, or you go see, I'd seen Elton John at that point and, you know, a bunch of big bands, and the opening band was the opening band, you know, but you guys were like almost like a co-headliner because I remember it being a long set and an incredible show. Just like, wow.
We only did a few shows with the Faces when Rod Stewart was there, but I remember them all pretty well. I don't remember that one for some reason, but I remember we came back from a tour and played with them in Hawaii once. But we did a handful of shows with Rod Stewart and the Faces, and Ronnie Wood must have still been in the band at that point.
Yeah,
right?
it was the end of their run with, and they
And
broke
that
up
was
after
such
that.
a great band. Those were some of my favorite British guys that had this great funky feel, and they sure did. You know, Stay With Me and that
Oh
kind of
man,
stuff. You know, I
yeah,
still love listening to that stuff because it is really funky, but from a different angle than say, you know, Memphis kind of funk or New Orleans or anywhere here. Their take on it was a little different. And Ronnie Wood switched to bass. No, it was Ronnie. Ronnie, what was the Faces bass player name?
they had Ronnie Lane
Ronnie
for a long
Lane?
time. Yeah, yep,
Is that he was really an inventive bass player.
that's right. Yeah,
When he was with Marriott back in when they were just the Small Faces, before they became the Faces, they were the Small Faces with
right.
Marriott. And he was playing really cool stuff back then. So I
Yeah, yeah,
always really admired that band.
yeah. Me too. I love that band, and you summed it up
Kenny Jones.
perfectly. Yeah, I think they were like they were kind of like a bar band. You guys, I would say, my interpretation would be your band, the Peter Frampton band. It was a much more polished band. I think you guys just individually are more polished and as a band, but those guys had this special kind of mojo because of their looseness and
Right.
almost like the Stones of those days where they could fall apart any second. But
And I
it was
love that raw sound. You know, another
yeah,
band that was like that was Bad Company. Had that same kind of
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
nonchalant, kind of just boozy, you know.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's hard to describe, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
And I was doing that in a band with Tommy Bolin. We were playing blues with that kind of approach. We were always looking for a singer when we were in Boulder that could, you know, be our Paul Rogers. Or we tried to get Terry Reid as a singer. Me and
Yeah.
Tommy and I. We approached Mike Finnegan, the great keyboard B3 player, and we never found a singer. But when we moved to LA together, Tommy and I, this was right after he'd done the Billy Cobham album. He got an audition with Deep Purple, and I got the audition to play with Peter Frampton. So we went our very different directions at that point. But we loved playing jazz, fusion, blues. You know, that's what Tommy and I did together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of like what Rod Stewart and those guys were doing. It's just kind of loose and everybody's drinking on stage and smoking
Oh
the
yeah.
stone. Yeah.
Yeah. And other stuff too.
And
Yeah,
Leonard
absolutely.
Skinner, can't leave them out. They're kind of the same.
Yeah. Yep. No, I mean, it's my favorite period of music, really. I mean, is
So
that
you saw that show? Where was that show?
that was at the old Boston Garden,
All
which
right. I
was,
love that room. It's such
yeah,
a funky old room.
I mean, a band could sound really awful there or actually pretty good. And you guys, honestly, I remember I'd seen the Stones there in June of '75. They sounded amazing. I'd seen Aerosmith in April of '75. It sounded horrible, just horrible. It was so
You know,
loud.
we had only been together. Did you say October was the show when you were there?
October of 75. Yeah.
We'd only been together for 4 months 5 months at that point. So it was
Amazing.
still fresh.
Yeah. And just ahead of when you recorded the record, right? That was November, I think, right?
We'd already recorded it.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
We just hadn't taken it back to Electric Lady to put it together. Now that's a story in and of itself. I probably told you, but when we were compiling, listening to what we had from the live recordings in Studio B at Electric Lady, I was doing basic tracks for Tommy Bolin's teaser album with Narada Michael Walden and Jan Hammer in Studio A at the same time.
Wow. Yes, you did. Yes. Please tell it though. Yeah.
Well, these are the two, I'm not one of those great session guys that have played on 1,000 great records like the guys in Ronin, like Doug Moore and Waddy and Rick. They've all played on hundreds of incredible records. I've just played on a handful, but with me, at least it's quality versus quantity. But, Tommy Bolin and Peter Frampton are the two artists that defined my career, basically.
Yeah.
That's what I'm associated with more than anybody else. Maybe Warren Zevon, but I never made a record. I just did live stuff with Warren. But it's uncanny that those two projects, we were there at the same time.
That's wild. Yeah.
I remember going back and forth from Studio A to B, and Peter and Bobby would, be listening to what was going to become Frampton Comes Alive. And then I got to go track you guys. I'll be back in a minute. And then we were cutting tracks with Tommy and Narada Michael Walden. There's a track we did on that teaser album that's just amazing. So that was probably the greatest time of my. Yes.
Yeah, Marching Powder. Yeah.
He does a solo over a 15/8 figure. It's just amazing.
I had Narada Michael Walden. Yeah, I had him on my show, and we talked about that. We talked about you, and
I missed that one. I have to go back to the archives and watch that one.
Yeah, I'll send you the link for it. It was incredible, and we talked about that track. And but back to this, I was just going to say, when you popped your head in when Peter and Bobby were mixing, did you tell them make sure you keep the bass up there in the mix, guys? Don't forget me.
It's only 4 of us in the band, so it's kind of hard to leave anybody out.
Right.
It's funny, I don't like to toot my own horn, but I'll never forget. Bobby Mayo told me, Stan, I forget, just in passing, he said, that the sound of that fretless bass is what makes this record sound so unique. It's just a phased kind of a growl that a fretless bass has.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget that. He goes, that's what makes this record, what it is. It's the sound of the bass. And I go,
well, honestly, I'll
buy that.
Yeah, I didn't know it at the time, but it absolutely sounded and sounds unique to me. As a drummer, I knew there was something about the way you guys sounded together that was different. It's
just the tone of that bass. It gave it a certain something that had never been captured. Maybe on record it had, but not live.
Yeah. Well, speaking of your great bass playing and your great bass sound, let's play a little bit of Doobie Wah, where we get to hear a little bit of Stanley stretching. And by the way, I want to point this out too. I made a note, and I know I don't have to tell you this, Stanley, but everybody listening, check out, this is Bobby playing rhythm guitar on this one, right?
Incredible rhythm guitar player.
Fuck, Bobby, man. His
unbelievable.
Rhythm, I mean, again, I remember hearing it as a kid and digging that it was the guy that plays keyboards playing guitar, but as an older, more mature musician now, I mean, wow, it's like
Bobby and I used to look at each other and just groove out on that section, man. I had so much fun playing with him on rhythm guitar.
I'll bet, man. Yeah, he's so funky. God bless him, man. Here it comes. Here's Doobie Wah, second song. Here we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
This song, man. And you just got this unbelievable foundation there.
you found. Take the place, you got another taste. Let me through. Carry on, won't do you no wrong. Something new. Icicles and blue serene.
There you can hear that fretless tone.
Yeah. You guys are just grooving, man.
You know, John's just laying it in there.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to follow that.
All right, here we go, right here.
Bobby.
Yeah. I know, man.
Rocco Prestia. I forgot it was so long. It goes on a while.
Yeah. And then the dynamics right here.
You know, I was listening to a version of Dave Mason's Only You Know and I Know
Yeah.
the other day. It's very similar.
Yeah, you were saying that, and I had never noticed that, but you're absolutely right. You're absolutely
It's the exact
right.
same tempo, and a lot of what Bob Glaub was playing on this version of it. It was Dave Mason's. He put the band together in L.A. with Mike Finnegan and Bob Glaub, and
I think it's Jim Gordon on that song playing drums, I think.
I think it's Rick Jagger.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Do you remember him? He was the drummer from L.A. that played in Dave Mason's band.
Yeah.
And they were a solid. I mean, Bob Glaub. You know, after that, he went on to play with everybody. But he was great. But the feel it's uncanny. They're so similar.
Yeah,
but,
that's and I know that's an homage to the Doobie Brothers, and I love those guys. But with all respect, they could never be that funky. I mean, that was like you reminded me of like James Jamerson at a point where you were playing that almost like Aretha Franklin. You better think.
Right.
That.
Well, that's where I came up as a young boy. That's the stuff I loved the most was Memphis Soul Stew. You know, that's another one that's very similar to that bass feel. But yeah, Jamerson. I'm always in my mind back then and even still today when I think about, well, what should I play here? And I just think to myself, well, what would Jamerson do? You know, and that's he's been my guiding light most of my career.
Yeah,
I think a lot of bass players would say that. I know John Paul Jones. I hear it in his playing, and I hear it in a lot of just about every bass player I know, and we all talk about him ad infinitum. But he deserved it.
No, my bandmates always use him as a sort of, North Star of like, that's the reference point of bass players, or certainly one of them, you being one as well. And I'm gonna move to the next song. We're not going to play every song in the record, folks, unfortunately. But
how much time do we have today?
we have as much time as you want, but I won't keep you here all day. But I do want to play some more music.
This is fun for me.
Oh, good. I thought you were going to say you had to go. I
don't have anywhere to go.
Good. All right. Well, I'm going to keep you here a little longer then. But the next song that we've all heard probably a million times, Show Me the Way. It's the next song on the record. And at first, I just felt like we've all heard this song so much we don't really need to play it. And that may sound blasphemous, but then I realized what probably is the best part of this song, again, is the bass part that you play in this song.
It's such a simple part, but it's the tone of that bass, you know, that I would say this is the one song more than any of the others that I just played the notes, but they're boom, boom, boom. It's the ringing out of that fretless tone that gives it that sound. Because the notes in of themselves, it's pretty basic stuff, but it works.
Well, I think it's the conviction that you play with, you know, and as you say, the ringing, the way the notes just, you know, the way it just kind of penetrates through the rest of the groove. It's just right there. It's so, yeah.
It's funny, you know, that song, and we'll play it here in a second, but I got to say this. It's, I don't know. It's a lot of the fans. That's the one they remember as the biggest hit, you know? And it's, to my mind, it was okay. It wasn't my favorite, but hey, something it's got.
Yeah. Well, it was the first, by my recollection, right? It was the first hit, I think, right? It was released.
Let me think.
And I can look it up, but it was the first single that I remember.
That's a great question, because I can't remember. Peter, there are only 3 hits. And that's the same 3 songs. That's the one the fans want to hear.
Okay, released February 76. So a month after.
Show Me the Way may have been the first one. Baby, I Love Your Way. Do You Feel, I think Do You Feel Like We Did. And they used to play the whole 20-minute version on FM radio. The whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm confused whether that was first or Show Me the Way. I think it was Do You Feel? Because
according to the wiki page, it says Show Me the Way was released in February of 76, Baby I Love Your Way in June, and Do You Feel in September.
Well, there you have it. See?
But you know what, though? As we know, Stanley, FM radio had no rules in those days, where they were probably playing Do You Feel right out of the gate. You know, I mean, just if they liked the tune, the DJs would play songs back then.
Well, I remember doing the TV show Midnight Special before the live album came out, and we got to play our whole show, basically, right. The 20-minute version of Do You Feel? And you can still go to the archives of Midnight Special and see it, but that was very early in 1975 when I had just joined. We did that TV show, and Show Me the Way. Yeah, it was, again, you know, the talk box gave it its unique appeal for the fans.
Yeah. Yep. Very radio friendly, you know, very kind of, you know, up tempo, fun to sing along to. Yeah. And,
very bubbly.
Very bubbly. Yeah. Very bubbly. Yeah. And as my bandmate points out again, once more, it's Bobby Mayo on rhythm guitar on this one.
That's right.
Yeah. Great solid rhythm playing. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Paul Candelori. All right, let's play a little bit of this guy here. Show Me the Way. Listen to that.
It's so simple, that bass part.
It's the feel. It's the feel. Yeah. Man.
John's driving this one.
And he's just playing 4 on the floor. Or
these fills.
Yeah.
My falsetto part.
Yeah.
living on your nerve. When someone drops a cup and I submerge, I'm swimming in a circle. I feel I'm going down. There has to be a fall to play my part. But someone thought of feeling, but all I really wanna know, oh, won't you show me the way every day? I want you, show me the way. Oh, I want you.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, I'm just playing what was on the record, studio version.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. The fans love that one. They love
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. And John doing those things that, again, were kind of a new, again, I keep talking about being a young, dumb drummer, but a new concept for me where he was doing those decats on the hi-hat kind of
He
fills.
sounded like Al Jackson.
Yeah. That now, upon reflection, absolutely, you could hear all those influences
He
that were
loved
so
Al
cool.
Jackson.
Yeah. And
who
but you know
didn't, huh?
his drum vocabulary was such a great, he didn't copy anybody, but he just took these bits from different people, and just kind of made his own kind of thing. It was so special the way he played.
Yeah, I sure miss him.
Yeah.
He was, I had some other notes about John, just some recollections, but I think we touched on most of them.
Yeah.
Uh,
I did have another question I wanted to ask you, Stanley. So
yeah,
so the record comes out in January of 1976. Were you guys off the road at that time? Had you, or
well,
were you,
that's when I was in the studio with Tommy Bolin
okay.
that week at Electric Ladyland.
Okay.
We came home and we were off and putting the, listening to everything we'd recorded that summer and fall. And that must have been December or maybe even November, possibly, of 75.
Yeah. Yep.
That sound right?
Yeah.
And
The
that's
record came out in January. So yeah.
so that's what we were doing. We were off in New York and just enjoying ourselves. It was so great, We didn't know that the album was going to become the phenomenal thing it became. We had no way of knowing that.
Yeah.
And we were all as surprised as, well, probably more surprised than anybody that when it finally hit, it did go to #1. When was it released?
January of 76, January 15th.
So I think it hit #1 a couple months later.
Yeah. I mean, Show Me the Way, I feel like was played nonstop around that, like shortly after the record was out. By February, March, you were hearing that nonstop on the radio.
After they released it, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember going home that summer in 76. That was probably the pinnacle of Frampton mania. I'm back to my hometown here in Kansas, and it was, you'd go to the swimming pool, the town swimming pool, and you'd hear "Do You Feel" the whole 20 minutes of it.
Wow.
And I was just in heaven, you can imagine.
Sure. Yeah. Well,
#1 album.
that was my next question. So did it kind of keep you guys out on the road for a while? Like, had you planned to be off, but that put you back out? Like, just, I would have thought in fact, you told me, and I think Rick told me. Yeah.
What did Rick say?
Well, I know when John left the band, there were a bunch of other drummers that came in.
Well, that's a whole story. I've got voluminous notes on that, but it reminds me of when John was he was just he'd spiraled into a point where he couldn't play anymore with his addiction. And that's when the first drummer, this is so amazing, the list of drummers, Gregorico.
Oh, man.
Peter, for some reason, Peter didn't feel it was clicking with Greg. Greg and I locked, man. I love that guy. We're still good friends.
Oh, he's
He
so
only
great.
played with us for like a week, 2 weeks. Then Newmark came in,
Andy
and he
Newmark.
did
Yeah.
one gig. He wouldn't rehearse, and Peter was a little flummoxed about that. But it was maybe one of the greatest stadium shows we ever did. The one where Andy played drums without
Wow.
rehearsal. We were nailing endings with never having rehearsed, and that reminds me of. Did you ever you've been to Rick's apartment on 35th Street?
I've been to his house in L.A., but no, not to his apartment in New
Well, I
York.
think he still has it.
He does. He absolutely has it. Yeah.
But in my mind, that was like that's where most of my career memories are, right there at Rick's apartment. Because right across the hall from Rick's was Andy Newmark's apartment.
Yes.
So I had just worked with Gregor Rico, and then Newmark was the next guy, and we hit it up, and we're still good friends. I was hoping he would become the drummer, since John couldn't do it, but it didn't work out. Wasn't meant to be. And then Rick was next.
Yeah.
Bob Mayo was recommending all these guys because Bobby was a New York guy and he knew who the cats were.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Rick came in. Rick was there for quite a few months. But I remember going up to the apartment, 35th Street, it's like a fifth floor, take the elevator up. And Jerry was there often, Rick's brother. And so it was me and Jerry and Rick. I met Linda Ronstadt up there one morning. She was up there. We went and ate sushi. But it was just an amazing, I loved that apartment. But I'd knock on Rick's door and Newmark would come out from across the hall because he heard something. And I'd go, "Hey, Andy, how you
Like
doing?"
Kramer
But
on
these are the
Seinfeld.
first three drummers that replaced Siomos, were Gregor
Yeah.
Rico, both of Sly Stone's drummers.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And then Rick, after that, Rick played for quite some time. He was using charts, and the guys on our road crew were having a lot of fun with Rick, stealing his charts. And so he'd have to do it without the charts. But I remember that. But Rick sounded great with Peter. And it was that connection with Rick, that 35th Street apartment house. Some of my fondest memories go right back to that spot in physical space. But later on, after having played with Rick, when Warren Zevon needed a bass player for the live tour, that's when Rick said we should get Stan. And so they called me up, and I was living in New York at that time too. So I flew out to LA and met Waddy and Rick and all those guys. So all of a sudden, I'm meeting my favorite players in LA all at one time. They're all there. Cooch, Jackson Brown, everyone's there. So all of a sudden I'm in this clique, and it was just the coolest feeling ever.
That's so great.
Be with those cats. I love those guys. And still today, we put Ronan back together a couple of years ago.
I remember.
Putting the band back together. There's only one place that people want to hear us, though, or even know about us, have ever even heard of us, is in Japan.
I remember you guys, yeah. But the old saying,
That's
you were
how
big
we
in
met, John. That's how we may have met before that, but it was at the studio in Nashville when we were reuniting Ronan. We hadn't played together in 40 years, 50 years.
Man.
40 years.
40 years. Amazing. Yeah.
And you were there.
Yeah. Yep. I was excited to meet you. I knew who you were. Rick said you were going to be there. I said, holy shit. Stanley Sheldon.
I had to drive there from Denver because of a snowpocalypse that hit, and I couldn't get my flight.
Yeah.
And Rick was trying to, he said, "Don't do it. Don't drive. We'll get somebody else." And this is a whole nother story. There's a whole bunch of Nashville bass players that would love to do that gig.
Oh,
the guy that got mentioned was my friend Steve Mackey, and he's one of the session cats well known in Nashville. And Doug Moe said, "Well, we could get Steve Mackey, and Stan can't make his flight." And He had already replaced me in Delbert McClinton's band. And then after that, he went on to become Peter's bass player.
Oh,
So when I
okay.
heard the name
Yeah.
Steve Mackey, I went, is this guy dogging me? I mean, I know he and I joke about it, or will joke about it. Uh,
Well,
it
it's
was kind of just the craziest milieu of people. But
yeah.
it's like anywhere. It's like that LA Mafia group that I had
Yep.
just met with Waddy and those cats. In Nashville, it's kind of the same way, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
When I played with Delbert, I met the cream of the crop because Delbert was kind of notorious for hiring uh, Nashville's finest,
Hmm.
which and there's a lot of people that fall under that rubric. What's the word? Is that it? But there, yeah,
Well, but when you mentioned all the different drummers that came in, I know Joe Vitale was also someone that came
he
in
was right after Rick.
after
After
Rick.
Rick,
All these great drummers, and I know you told me this, and I've heard it from some of the other drummers that have played with Peter since that time. How, and I have so much respect for this because, in fact, one drummer I want to mention in particular, a friend of mine who could be watching right now, Nashville drummer by the name of Brian Fullen. I remember Brian did, I think, just one tour one summer, and it was 30 years ago. It was 1996. So it would have been the 20th anniversary of the Comes Alive record. And I remember him, I was working for Zildjian. He was one of our artists. And he was saying, I need a ride cymbal that sounds like John Siomos because Peter, and this is what a number of other Peter Frampton drummers told me, is that Peter was so tuned into that ride that John had, which was a 22-inch Zildjian A medium ride, that it was like, I think he even told Brian at one point, that ride's not happening, man. Like, you need to get something that sounds like, and so I found something I think that was close enough, and it kind of got him through. But I remember going to see him at Great Woods here in the Shed here in Massachusetts, and I met Peter briefly for a second, but Brian was sort of on eggshells because it was at sound check, and it was just, I think Peter could be intimidating to drummers because he had
especially
such
to drummers.
a high standard of like what he was expecting to hear. And I got to think too, the feel was so important to him that not everybody's going to be able to have that feel that you're talking about Rick and Andy and Joe Vitale and that.
Well, I think Peter would push it. He would even he would request exact fills to be played even. And a
Yeah.
lot of drummers, some people can be put off by having to do exactly what another player has done. But that's what Peter wanted,
Yeah.
because John did play so great on the record. He wanted a lot of that to be what was there live every
Yeah.
night.
And Dan Wojciechowski, his most recent drummer.
He's lasted a long time.
Yeah.
God
Great
bless him.
drummer. Yeah. Great. And a great guy. And again, a guy I signed up at excuse me, at Zildjian. And I remember that, the cymbals being very important to, to Peter.
He's even gone out with and used John's original kit from the live recording in
Right.
Winterland. Peter takes that on the road sometimes, and Wojciechowski will play that kit. And it's a real honor. It would be for any drummer to play because it was a beautiful kit.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I just, I think maybe where some people might think that's obsessive, I think that's just, besides it being a great sort of tribute to John, I think it really speaks for like the integrity of Peter and the music, like what he's not gonna, he's gonna push people to get it to sound the way he wants it to sound.
Well, if you think about it, if you can think of a lot of bands that Steely Dan would be one example.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're going to want the song,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
often they're going to want, right down to drum fills even. So that's
Yeah.
just what it takes sometimes, and it's part of the gig.
Absolutely. And I don't want to forget, sorry, Phil Accardi is also mentioning the great Gary Malaber, also that,
He's on the list too. Gary came in and
yeah.
played for about a year, I would say, and I've lost touch with him now, but I know you did a show with him.
Yeah, I can get you Gary's info. He'd love to hear
I would
from you.
like to hook up with him. We have a mutual friend who we both played with but he's a great drummer. He played on some of my all-time favorite Van Morrison records. I mean, just an amazing drummer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Love him.
Peter was often very I don't know. He wanted that thing that John did, and if drummers took umbrage at that, they didn't last long with him.
Hmm. Yeah.
So Gary lasted longer than some drummers. Gregor was, I was shocked, you know, he was just too funky.
And maybe that's what it was. Maybe he was too funky. Maybe it wasn't.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
One of the, that's one of those things that, how can you be too funky? But I guess you could.
Yeah. Well, we should play some more music. And I'm going to read a couple of questions that came through if you
Sure.
don't mind. You might know this gentleman, Andrew Moore. He said, be sure to ask about Stanley's Rhythm Republic,
Oh man.
the play
Well,
around
that's my
KC.
Latin jazz.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
Latin jazz combo here in KC.
All
And
right.
it's actually it's a dream combo for me. I've been trying to get these guys, Kansas City's finest, for years, but they all do, you know, the club gigs and they're working every night. It's so hard to nail these kind of players down unless you've got something you can offer them. So we got offered a Wednesday at this really great club. So
Great.
I was able to put together a quintet, man. The trumpet players killing, the percussion section is killing,
Oh,
and the
man.
piano player, all world-class players. I'll have to send you some of it, John.
Please do. Yeah. I would love to see and hear this. Yeah.
Well, it's Afro-Cuban jazz, which has always been
Yeah.
one of the favorite things I've enjoyed playing over the years. And even with Jamerson was doing it. I didn't know it had a name back then. You know, if you listen to
Yeah.
Cloud Nine, it's Afro-Cuban. So that's always been in my style. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love
Well,
to
tell
hear
him
it.
thanks for asking about that.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrew, for the question. And one more question from a longtime listener and watcher, Anthony Cusino, who I think you know.
I've seen him on my Facebook page a lot.
He said, would you ask Stanley what are some important qualities that he looks for in a first choice drummer? And glad to have met and gigged with Stanley with keyboardist Steve Saslow years ago while living in Bedford Hills, New
yeah.
York.
Okay. Yeah, that's when I lived in Bedford Hills. Yeah. Well,
What do you
I
look for
just
in a
look for
drummer?
a drummer that just has impeccable time. That's the most important thing to me.
Yeah.
Because for good or ill, it's kind of like being cursed with perfect pitch. If you hear a note, that's not it. That's not perfect. It must drive you crazy. Well, I'm that way with time.
Hmm.
Uh, and I'm not going to call it perfect time, but
I'd
once
say
I have it,
pretty close.
when I have a tempo in my head, it's that's where I want it to be, and
Hmm.
I'll fight to keep it there with whoever. And I don't like fighting, so that's what I look for in a drummer.
So talking about this record, because this is perfect. It's a great setup for a question I wanted to kind of get to about just the tempos and the feel. Did Peter count the tunes off? I know he's also very tuned into time and
He
very,
taught me how to count a song
okay.
really well, and I watched him do it every night, right before the song, and he did count all the songs.
I thought so. Yeah.
But he would he would just take a minute and take a breath, and I'd watch him. And now that's what I do, because I like counting songs with my jazz combo. It's got to
Yeah.
be right where it should be, and if it's off by one click, I notice.
It's hard too. It really is for me.
It's
Some
not
nights.
easy. It's
Yeah.
an art, but Peter taught me how to do it. I
And
watched him do it every night. You just have to take a second, think of a section of the song where it tends to rush. If it's going to rush, that's where it's going to happen. Or
yeah.
just
Yeah.
think about that part of the song in your head, and then you'll have the tempo.
That's a great tip. I never thought of that. It's a great tip.
That's how I do it.
Yeah.
That's how Peter did it.
I try to in my head, in between songs, just quickly envision what it would feel like to sing it. And sometimes it's a song that I actually sing, so it's easier if I just know and that helps. But if it's one of the other guys singing it, I try to just think like,
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
that's really all it is.
Yeah.
You just have to think of a part of the song and get the tempo to it
Yeah,
in your head.
that's great. And that's great, because that did lead to a question that I wanted to ask about. It was another thing that other drummers have told me throughout the years that have played with Peter, is that and like you mentioned Jackson Browne, I know a whole bunch of drummers that have played with Jackson that have said, he'll notice if something's a click off. He'll turn around in the middle of a tune and just go, it could be like,
Back it off a little, back it off.
yeah, just like one click and he's on it, and I get it. I have respect for that. These guys that can really hear that kind of nuance.
Well, that's probably I would consider my most positive quality is the way I can hear the time where it should be. And it's weird because sometimes, if you think about the old Motown reviews or Otis Redding, when they played live, it's I can't get no satisfaction. They do everything just so fast. But it just depends on where an individual wants the tempo. And I know where I want it. Some people might think, that's too fast or that's too slow. But I don't know. You know what I'm saying.
I absolutely do. Yeah. Well, I'm going to play a little bit more music. I mean, I'm going to play it ironically, or not coincidentally. It's the next single from the record, but a song that I think is well worth talking about and playing. Baby, I Love Your Way. Where is it? Going to find it here. Again, it's just such a beautiful piece of music. When you just stop and listen to it, you listen to it's Bobby Mayo playing a Fender Rhodes, I think, on this one.
His solo is amazing on that song.
Oh my God. And again, you and John are just like what you guys are playing behind it. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, it was a huge hit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's give it a little listen. Make sure my sound is up here. Here we go.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's the famous thank you.
Thank you. Shadows grow so long before my eyes, and they're moving across the page.
You can really hear the fretless tone on this.
Yeah. I mean, to me, you're playing the melody right there. That's the Peter's playing a nice acoustic part, but
It's simple.
Hesitate, 'cause your love won't wait. Hey, hey, hey. Ooh, baby, I love your way every day. Wanna tell you I love your way.
You know that part right there that goes.
Wanna be with you
Very
night
subtle.
and day.
John Hope did that.
yeah. These little accents here.
Moon appears to shine beneath the sky with the help of some firelight. I wonder how they have the power to shine, shine, shine. I can't see them under the pine, but don't hesitate, 'cause your love won't wait.
I like this walk down.
Yeah.
Ooh, baby, I love your way every day. Wanna tell you I love your way. Wanna be with you night and day. Ooh, yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, we had to get Bobby's solo in there.
You know, the dynamics, the way we were all just breathing together. It is an amazing sounding track. It really is.
It absolutely is. Yeah. And again, it's one of those, I think it maybe doesn't get the love and the respect it deserves because we heard it on the radio so many times and it's a ballad and people sometimes dismiss.
Well, I'd argue with that. I think it's probably Peter, the fans' most beloved song is that one. On the live shows anyway.
Yeah. When you do that, well, that's great to hear that. And I guess that would make sense because it was such a big hit song. I think sometimes, like the people overlook the hits for some reason and think, I've heard that
it's not
song.
like Peter had, there's bands like Steely Dan who've had 20, 40 hits, Doobie Brothers. You can reel off a bunch of bands that had 10, 20, 30 hits. Steve Miller, how many hits did he have? Peter only had 3 hits. And
that's true. Yeah.
Those are the ones that the fans want to hear. And he's made some great albums over the years. But still, they're coming to hear those 3 songs, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm going to play just the intro to one more song that it's a great little drum intro.
Let me guess. I give up.
I'll give you money.
Oh yeah. That's like the John Bonham kind of deal.
Exactly. Let's play a second of this to just a little tribute to our friend John Siomos, who sadly I never met, but would love to have met him. But let's play a second of this.
This is a good one.
Yeah. Almost like Cashmere sped up a little.
Yeah, I mean that just sits there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Tell you a story about it.
Yeah. Man. Yes, when the levee breaks. I said Cashmere. I meant when the levee breaks. Yeah.
This was one of the songs I did at the audition. Peter wanted to hear the fretless.
Oh, no kidding.
Fretless. So that slide, boom, boom,
yeah,
boom. It's subtle, but that's what's going on. It's just a boom. I don't know if you can even hear it on the record.
Yeah, I think you can hear it. I'll turn it back up in a second. I was just going to say, this is a great example of, how great it was in those days to like play a record from start to finish and find all these great songs that you didn't hear on the radio that were like became your favorite song,
There's another favorite of mine that never gets played. Most of the fans don't even know it. It's called Magic Moon. And if you want to hear Frampton sounding like Led Zeppelin, I finally convinced him to put it in the repertoire 10 years ago when I was out on the road with him. Because it's a hard one to pull off live, but it's the most Zeppelin-esque song that Peter's ever written. Listen to it sometime. It's called Magic.
Will. Yeah, Magic Moon.
We can play it now.
Yeah, sure. I can do that. I can find it.
Can you pull it up?
I sure can. Yep.
Put it on. You'll freak out.
Hang on, everybody. I love this. We're calling an audible here, thanks to my buddy Stanley.
Well, Peter did a couple of what he would call his tributes to Led Zeppelin. This is one of them, Money. He wrote that with Zeppelin in mind, and this other one, Magic Moon.
Okay.
It's on the Something's Happening album, I think. It's
Yep,
either
there it
that.
is.
Find it?
I did. Yep.
It's got a killer groove riff.
All right. Here we go.
Turn it up.
All right. Here comes Magic Moon, and it is from the Something's Happening record.
This is my favorite Frampton song.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Do you read your horoscope? Does it help you cope?
That's John on drums, obviously. Yep.
Are you into it?
Rick Wills on bass.
Do
Yep.
you
Yes.
chew the fat? Let me pinch the salt. Don't
Oh, yeah.
miss all your fun.
You ever heard this one?
I haven't heard this before. This is great.
It's got a great hook.
Yeah.
Here it comes.
That's got the Kashmir feel to it.
Magic moon, change this time.
Yeah.
Read my hand. How long must I stand? See the sea like it used to be. No more gas to burn. Now my wheels don't turn around.
Isn't that great?
That's great. What a great tune.
Put them all away. Angry witches brew.
And you guys started playing this song live?
I always wanted to do it, even back before the live album. I was saying, can't we do Magic Moon? Because when I was learning the songs, this is the one me and my friends back in LA, we loved it. A drummer friend of mine loved it, and I always did too. And Peter wouldn't put it in the repertoire back in the day, but I convinced him to do it on the Guitar Circus tour, and we did it.
Wow.
And he
That's
sounded great. It sounded great.
I'll bet once he sort of got past the
It's
you know,
hard for
his-
him to sing and play it at the same time.
Yeah,
That's why
yeah.
He's been hesitant to put it in the set, but he can do it.
And judging by everybody watching us right now, all the fans know it, and they must have gone crazy when you guys did this song.
We opened the show at the Ryman with it one night, and
That's cool.
They really loved it.
That's great. Well, Stanley, you've been so great with your time today. We'll wind it down. I would be remiss. We did a whole episode on Do You Feel Like We Do, but I thought we'd play a little bit of it today just to sort of
Sure.
round it out. And this song is the last song on the record, but it was not the last song during the set, right? I think you told me that at some point.
I think we did a couple of songs after it. Maybe, certainly we had an encore song, but what was the Stones cover that we did?
Oh, Jumpin' Jack Flash.
Yeah, that was sometimes the last song, or maybe an encore song. But
Yeah.
I can't remember if we ever ended the show with it. I'm thinking we didn't.
Well, it's interesting you say that, and I think when you listen to this record, Jumpin' Jack Flash is two songs before it, but it sounds like it's the encore by the audience, by the sort of crowd response. So that would make
We could
sense.
have adjusted that when we put it together. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I really can't.
But this song speaks for itself. It's like your anthem, and just an incredible piece of music. And Bobby Mayo is playing guitar and keyboards in this song, right? Is he switching?
He does switch.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I know he switches to. It's a keyboard solo during the long breakdown. I don't remember him playing guitar on this. Are you sure?
Maybe I'm confusing that with something else. But
I can't remember.
Okay. Well, we'll give it a little bit of a listen, and we'll come back and kind of close things up for the day. But thank you for doing this today. This has been so fun. 50 years later, this record still, I can put this on in the car and go for a long drive and just listen and love it as much as I did 50 years ago. So thank
It's
you.
a great record, man. I'm lucky to have been a part of it for sure.
Well, we're lucky that you were a part of it too, because you're a legend. That's all I'm going to say. You're a humble man, so I won't make you feel uncomfortable.
Thank you, John.
My pleasure. Hang on one second with me here, Stanley. We'll play a little bit of this song.
John's hi-hat.
Yeah. But that walking bass line that you're playing there, would you call that a walking bass line?
No, that's more of just a line.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Simple. It's got that little weird kick right there.
Oh man, I love that.
Well, woke up this morning with a wine glass in my hand. Whose wine? What wine? Where the hell did I die? Must have been a dream. I don't believe where I've been. Come on, let's do it again. You feel like how'd you feel? You feel like I do. My brain got busted just the other day. They said, don't walk away. Drove into a taxi, bent the boot, hit the bag. Had to play some music, otherwise he'd win. You feel like I do. How'd you feel?
I think Bob is playing guitar.
I think so, yeah.
I just
think
heard
he
a
is.
part.
Yeah. And then at some point he switches
He
to
goes
the,
back to keyboard.
yeah. Yeah.
Champagne for breakfast and a Sherman in my hand. Peach stuff, peach tail, never fails.
Man.
That's the one where I'm doing my Jamerson. You know, it really kind of shines through. It's undeniable. Who
Yeah.
I'm trying to emulate there.
It's beautiful. This part right here, I have to play just a little bit because to me it's
Sure.
it's a lesson for rhythm sections. Like this is
The lesson in patience. Sure.
oh man, this is magic right here. And I'm going to just skip ahead to just one more part here, and it's
The big ending?
the big ending. It's that last 2-minute build. I'll
Right.
see if I can find it right here where
Have you ever
and
heard
John
Rick Beato break this song down?
I love Rick Beato. I haven't seen this particular.
He
Did you
breaks
do it
this
with him?
down. It's pretty brilliant the way he does it. Yeah.
I have to check it out. Yeah, I love Rick's work. It's the part where you and John are playing almost like a fusion-y kind of thing where you're playing that. Well, you'll hear what I mean. Here it comes right here. Yeah. You're holding it together.
One more quick summary.
So last question, Stan. Was he basically directing you guys during that big ending, like as far as
No,
the cues of
that was probably where we improvised the most. That was never the same from night to night.
Okay.
The only things were the same were the notes, at the very end, that's all very well orchestrated. But what we're doing in between,
Yeah.
that's pretty impressive improvisation every night,
Yeah.
And it's that night, it was pretty incredible.
On fire, man. It's the greatest ending ever. It really is. It's the greatest
The way
ending
it
ever.
builds, the way it
Yeah.
builds.
Yeah. And John's
Yeah.
little da-da-do-do-do-do, ba-da-boom-boom. Yeah.
That part
Yeah.
was orchestrated. We're basically just playing the riff, the beginning riff. All
Yeah.
we're doing is slowing it way down, going. Keep slowing down.
Dome.
It's just the riff,
Yeah.
retarded.
It's so
Really,
great, man. Yeah.
it's a great ending. All of Peter's endings, that was one of the first things I noticed was, and it's like an airplane flight. You want the takeoff and the landing. They're really important. So with
Yes.
Peter, our endings were always well rehearsed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But everything in between is just all improv, especially on that long section,
Yeah.
that's what made it so fun.
Just incredible. Well, thank you so much for being here today and sharing all this information and all these insights with everybody. And I want to thank everybody for watching today. Big hand for Stanley Sheldon, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. I really enjoy doing this, John.
We'll do it again, Stanley. There's plenty to talk about. So
Yeah, we never really got to the Tommy Bolin stuff someday.
we'll do that. We will do that.
Cool, man.
All right. Well, hang with me for 1 second. We'll end the stream and say goodbye to everybody. And thanks again, everybody. I'll see you again real soon. And again, thanks to Stanley for being here today.
Thanks, everybody.